Joey Burrow threw for over 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. And that's it. That's the tweet. That's Kyle. I'm Colby. And this is Bootleg. I once threw for over 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns on NCAA football with an Indiana quarterback whose name I tried to remember this morning and I couldn't figure it out. And I actually felt bad and raised the level all the way to Heisman after that because I thought, like, that's unrealistic. You shouldn't be able to do that in a video game.
It even gets too boring in the video game too.
Yeah.
It's just too easy.
Yeah, like I don't know, I'm doing crazy stuff like completing 80% of my throws and most of them like deep down the field. Stuff that you would never actually see in real life. With like a trio of receivers that are going to the NFL and a tight end who's like the son of a Hall of Famer. It's just really unrealistic.
Against SEC defenses.
Yeah. And at some point you have to draw the line. You got to move the setting up.
And 5 of the top 8 teams in the final AP poll.
Yeah, like that's unrealistic.
Right.
That's not ever going to happen.
That could never happen.
It actually just happened.
Yeah, he just did the damn thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. On today's show, I will clear my throat, and then we will put a bow on the college football season in general with some final thoughts on both Division I title games. We'll make a few way too early predictions. Those are my favorite kind, the ones that are way too early and probably inaccurate ahead of next season. And, yes, the countdown to next season in my brain is already going on. Mm-hmm. We have 300 days, 14 hours, 5 minutes, and 19 seconds.
Is that the game in Ireland?
No, I completely made that up. I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But I said it with confidence, so it sounded good, right?
You did.
And if people know you at all, they know we also cannot resist on, January 16th. We have to take a trip into the transfer portal as well.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll do that.
The portal.
Before all of that, though, I warned you about this morning. I just have to get a little something off my chest. I have a rant about towels.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm excited to hear it.
Well, among the things that we take great pride in here at Flo is responsible spending. Mm-hmm. It's no crazy dinner bills, no stays at the W, economy seats on flights, or in my case, nothing but Southwest flights, which is an entirely separate discussion as I actually prefer the simplicity of Southwest over airlines like Delta or American, and don't get me started on United. I'll take the Southwest flight all day, every day. It's also inexpensive, so it's very Flo. With that being said, and I didn't warn you about this part, but I got to put you on the spot at the risk of this getting back to Christian Piles.
Okay.
Of everyone that you travel with, is there anyone that you trust more to book accommodations than me?
No, because, for an example, just yesterday, you were booking a trip to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. I was.
And you were looking at, like, the food and stuff near the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
When I, book a trip, and I'm pretty sure everyone else on the wrestling team, that does not even cross our minds.
The easy thing to do is to just find the venue, find a cluster of cheap hotels around the venue, and pick a chain that you trust within reason, whether it be a Holiday Inn or a Super 8, whatever you like.
Correct.
In Christian's case, he's probably sorting on trip action based on rewards points, and right?
Yeah,
and raking in the Amazon dollars.
Yeah,
is that his deal?
83 yesterday.
Wow.
He got.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is not how I go about it. When I travel to a place, I want to experience the city in some way or another. I want to put myself in a neighborhood that the locals are proud of. So, in doing that, I like to get a hotel that makes me feel just a little bougie. Not too bougie, just within the budget bougie.
Okay.
Which is why yesterday when I was looking at DC, I was searching the neighborhoods, trying to figure out what neighborhoods the local, the people are right in that area like. It's a lot of research. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. And essentially what I'm looking for is a hotel room that is heavily discounted for no apparent reason. Okay. I want one that's normally several $100s more than what I'm going to pay for it. And it takes reading the blogs, and it takes quizzing the locals, and it takes cross-checking a location of the event with the hotel, with the airport, and finding the perfect location that has a great walkability score, always important.
Okay.
And then also just the things that you need. You mentioned the restaurants. Those are important. You want to have a nice selection of restaurants, no chains. Give me something local. I want some local fare. The proximity of a Starbucks, also important. There's a lot that goes into it. But at the end of the day, what I take great pride in is that most of the time I knock it out of the park. Most recently in Charleston and again in Boston. And then you just mentioned D.C. This past weekend it was Dallas. Okay? And the trick in Dallas was getting as close as possible to Frisco without actually being in Frisco because the room rates were about quadruple what you would expect a hotel room in that town to be. All because of the FCS championship, obviously. And good for Frisco, good for them. I'm sure that's great for the local the local
economy.
Economy. Either one of those would have worked there. But Dallas, to quote the great David Ortiz, being my city.
That's good.
I'm really good at David Ortiz impressions and at booking hotels in Dallas. So once again, I crushed it. Stayed at the AC by the Galleria. I'll name it because before I get on my towel rant, I would just like to point out that the AC was a lovely hotel. Great choice by me. Excellent location. Cool little lighting situation. They had like indirect lights beneath the benches in the room. You'd have to see it. I should have taken a picture. It was really cool.
I'll trust you.
Solid downstairs bar. The bartender very friendly. Put us in a good frame of mind before we went to the FCS awards show. I really have nothing but good things to say about the AC. Except that in the bathroom, there's a little sign on the towels. And the sign says something like, help us go green, or help us save the planet, or whatever it was. And it's not just an AC problem. They're like the reason it set me off is because there's been like 7, 8, 9 hotels in a row now who've requested that I help them save the planet. And I'm all for it.
What do they want you to do?
Saving the planet. They don't want me to use all my towels.
Gotcha.
They want me to reuse my towel. That's how me and Marriott, and the Hyatt hotel chain, in this case AC, I don't know who owns them, but whoever does, that's how we're going to collectively save the planet. Now, as a kid, I watched Captain Planet. I enjoyed that show very much, and I'm all for saving the planet, but I'm not going to save the planet by just using my towel 4 times.
You're not. I can confirm that.
But I don't ever use my towel 1 time. At home, I use my towel at least twice. Because like you're clean after you're done taking a shower. Like, it's okay to reuse your towel. It's not a big deal. And frankly, I would reuse it anyway at the hotel because I don't trust room service to come in there and freshen up all my towels if I use them all up. So I'm going to repeat the towel. But to act like we're going to save the planet, instead of just, what they should do is just tell you, hey, somebody has to wash, fold, and replace all the towels. So that'd be really helpful to us if you weren't an asshole and you didn't use 500 towels.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
That's what I want the sign to say.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. That's literally all it is. They just don't want to ask their people that are cleaning the rooms. They don't want to ask them to pick up 9 million towels and take them all down and wash them all. And then it's a cost for the hotel because they have to use the water necessary and the electricity necessary to run the washer and the dryer and get the towels all right. I get that. Just be honest. We're all adults here.
Yeah.
You know, just say, hey, don't use 1,000 towels.
Tell it like it is.
There are a lot of towels in your room because we're not sure how many people are going to be standing here. It could be 2, could be 4, depending on the bed situation. That's why we put a lot of towels in here, not so you can use a new towel for every single thing that you're doing. So just use 1 towel
I'm with
a
you,
couple
man.
of different times. That's what I want
Let's
them to say.
start a hotel chain, and that will be our calling card. We are brutally honest with everyone.
Brutally honest on the card.
Yeah.
Just cards in a room that are like, hey, make your own bed.
Yeah, don't be lazy. Make your own bed.
Hey, don't leave weird stuff out in your room. The housekeeping is going to have to figure out what to do with that. Like, throw your trash away. I don't know. Be an adult.
Nice and simple stuff.
Yeah. Just throw your towel over the shower. Guess what? It'll dry. And then
A lot of times they have the hooks to hang it on too.
they do have
just
those.
Put it up there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is like there's been some hotel chains where they're like, if you want to save the planet, put your towel on a hook, and if not, throw it on the floor like a jerk. I'm like, well, I want to save the planet, but I'm putting my towel on a hook because it'll dry before I come back. Anyway, sorry, told you it was a rant.
No, you're
I
good.
just feel like they're being disingenuous with the towel situation. I think they should
good.
relax and just tell us what they want us to do.
Also, I looked it up. It's 226 days from today to August 29th when I think it is Notre Dame-Navy opened the season in Dublin, Ireland.
See, the towel rant was multi-purpose. It allowed you the time
Yes.
to figure out exactly how many days we have until we can start this whole thing over.
Emerald Isle Classic, which I don't know if that's what they're calling. I don't know if this will be a yearly thing now. But yeah.
You want to talk JMU?
let's talk JMU. Let's get into it. How was your weekend in Frisco? I wish I could have been there, but I did. When I flipped on the TV Saturday morning, I was stunned to see snow.
Yep.
Because we are just 3 hours away from Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
and while it wasn't like 70 degrees here, it was in the 50s.
Yeah.
And the sun was out.
So Friday night was crazy. We left the hotel and it was like nice out. It was like 65 out. We got our Uber and went to the Embassy Suites, I think is where the FCS awards were at, and got out of the Uber, walked inside. It was very pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the award show for about 3 hours, and we came back out, which is an entirely separate conversation because, oh my God, that could be a 2-hour award show. There's no reason for it to be 3. We walked back outside 3 hours later, and the weather has changed like very abruptly. It went from I'm guessing here, I didn't actually check the weather in this instance, but I'm going to guess a 20-degree drop from 7 to 10, or I guess it was 6 to 9:30-ish, we'll call it, whatever.
Okay.
Probably a 20-degree drop in the temp. The winds at that point were like gale force, just like we're trying to get to our Uber and we got to like fight through the wind to get to it. Get in, go to the Star in Frisco, not the indoor. We weren't practicing or anything. We just went to the bars that are across the street because Gunter was with me. He hadn't seen it, so I thought it'd be cool for him to check it out. So we went over there.
Very nice setup.
Yeah, it's I love it over there. Unbeknownst to us, JMU basically like bought out the whole complex. Like
really?
Every bar over there was a JMU bar.
That's cool.
And the first one that we were gonna go to, the Concrete Cowboy, was literally like a line like around the building that were JMU fans because that was like the JMU party. So we ended up going to a different spot, but. You know, when we got there, it was like raining a little bit, and again, it was cold and windy, but it still wasn't like crazy. So we were inside for I think like an hour and a half, maybe 2, and when we came back out, it was freezing, like so cold. Like I'm like hiding behind a pillar waiting for our Uber, and so that was that. Dude takes us to the hotel. Get up the next day, walk outside, and it is 27 degrees and snowing. Like heavy snowing, like big flurries.
Yeah, they showed like the teams out there in pregame warmups, and it was honestly hard to see them because it was coming down so heavy.
Yeah, it was sick. I mean, like I mean, despite the fact that I couldn't feel my toes by like the midway point of the first quarter, I really enjoyed it. It was cool because, like, again, like you pointed out, we don't really get weather like that down here. I hadn't seen any kind of snow this year, and that's kind of championship football weather. I mean, as a Packers fan, you can identify with a little frost on the field, a little snow from the sky. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was a nice touch. And the other thing about it is it didn't impede either team.
No.
Because both teams are perfectly suited to play in that weather. So it wasn't a situation where you had like one like super spread offense that was going to all of a sudden have to redo how they play football. JMU came out and looked great early, punched North Dakota State in the mouth.
That first drive was like 13 plays. We started at like their 10-yard line. Just, as you said, just punched them in the mouth. It was like, there was only like 2 or 3 pass plays, and they were short pass plays. It wasn't like they had like a big 70-yard gain to set them up down there. It was boom, 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 and I was like, okay.
I know. I should point out, too, I wanted to mention this. It had like 2.4 million viewers.
Yeah.
It was like 1 million more than the second most watched FCS game of all time, if I remember right. Maybe I'm messing that up. But it was a ton of people watching that game, which I think just points to the level of the matchup. You know, we talked about it, but obviously anybody that listens to this podcast or watches Colonial Time or whatever knows that, like, we definitely skew CAA.
Sure.
And I'll admit that, but in this case, when we were selling the game as being something incredible, we weren't doing it for us. We didn't have the game, and we weren't being disingenuous either. Mm-hmm. Like, it was legitimately an all-time great matchup.
I mean, it's pretty rare in college football when you see the number 1 and number 2 teams preseason go wire to wire, no question about it. JMU took one loss. It was to an FBS team. They beat everybody else soundly. North Dakota State beat everyone else soundly. It was clear they were the 2 best teams. And then, obviously, it helps that they're the 2 biggest fan bases in FCS, too, and have been the 2 most dominant programs over the past, North Dakota State, like 10 years. But JMU's been right there on the heels. They're the only one to beat them in this stretch. And the second time they've played in the national championship game since 2016. So, it speaks to the level of the matchup. And I think more than just FCS fans were tuning in, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I had, friends of mine all over the country who have not watched FCS football all year, but just know that I'm obviously have a keen interest in it, and they were hitting me up throughout the game, watching the game, just asking about this guy or that guy.
Game.
It was a fantastic game. The stadium was about 70-30 North Dakota State. They're insane people.
Well,
they're insane.
I know. I think we actually heard this when we were at CAA Media Days. Like, most of those people book their trips preseason.
Yeah. I mean, so I was telling Michael this. I only know because when Katie and I lived in Dallas, we used to go to watch Frisco Rough Rider minor league baseball games.
Okay.
And right by the stadium, there's a sports bar. I took you there. When we were there for the opening, we went to Wild Pitch.
The sushi sports bar.
Yes, the sushi sports bar, which it sounds like a stomach virus waiting to happen, but
actually
really good.
Yes.
Yeah, great recommendation from whatever her name was. The Wild Pitch is a North Dakota State bar.
That's crazy.
It's a North Dakota State bar. They fly a North Dakota State flag. They're proud of the fact that they're a North Dakota State bar in Frisco, Texas. I don't know where the North Dakota State people hung out on Friday night because again we were just with JMU folks. Wild Pitch for sure. And my guess is the North Dakota State fan base is not quite so picky about their bars as JMU's fans.
No, I think you got two different demographics there.
It seemed like it a little bit. Just I and the people in the stands.
Yeah.
I never want to typecast anybody, but it just seemed like maybe they were more open to dives and maybe an Applebee's.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I mean, the JMU crowd was impressive. It was a big sea of purple. It's just that NDSU literally books this trip preseason, and I mean they've been there.
So yeah, what it was North Dakota State had their allotment and JMU had their allotment, and then there's tickets that are open to the general public. All of those were North Dakota State because they booked them 7 years ago. They probably have booked tickets to like the 2028 national title game, just expecting that they're going to be there for the next 8 years. No, credit to JMU's fan base though. They showed up and they were noisy. Like for only being 30% of the stadium, they definitely helped their team. North Dakota State's game plan was pretty simple and obvious. It was keep the ball in Trey Lance's hands and take advantage of JMU. JMU obviously with two of the best DNs in the country in Rondell Carter and John Daka, but the propensity there is to be aggressive, which normally is a great thing. But with Trey Lance, there were a couple of different times where not to pick on Daka at all, but I think it was him pretty much every time. He made plays doing the same thing, but Daka's quick off the ball and he gets upfield fast. North Dakota State's their thought process was we're going to take advantage of that with design quarterback run. Lance ran it 30 times. He only threw it 10. I think he had 5 pass attempts. I usually 2 for 5 at the half.
Well, and you bring up a great point. We talked about how good obviously JMU's defensive line is all season. And they were in the backfield a lot in the first half. They just struggled to get Lance on the ground.
Yeah.
And then once he broke that contain, he was a problem in the secondary.
Which they're not alone in that. I mean, the guys.
Oh, for sure.
I'll get killed for saying this, but my honest to God interpretation of the game, and I'll get killed because Travis has told me that we have developed a bit of a North Dakota State following on YouTube that like to track what we say about CAA teams. And then
someone was chirping us, tweeting us the other day after I was kind of critical of their performance against Illinois State, and then they beat up Montana State.
I saw it.
They were chirping me.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'll take the page views and the minutes watched, but they will find this video and they will kill me for saying it. But I mean it sincerely. I think that JMU outperformed North Dakota State for the vast majority of that game. And it was a well-played game. I'm not saying JMU was far and away better than North Dakota. No, I'm saying right here, I think that JMU was just an edge better than North Dakota State for most of the game. But, there were a few, massively crucial moments in that game where JMU shot themselves in the foot.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're playing Goliath, you can barely afford one mistake, let alone 3 or 4. And so I think, to me, that was ultimately – I actually made a list of them. We can go through it. But I think that
I'm sure
save for 4 plays, that's a JMU national championship.
I'm sure we probably have the same moments in mind. But the red zone comes to mind for me with JMU. Settle for a couple field goals. One you miss. Raki usually does not miss.
Right.
And then if you make that, a touchdown there at the end of the game wins it.
Yeah.
Or if you had scored a touchdown in any of those other drives where you settled for field goals. And then, obviously, the 3rd and 26 or whatever it was when Lance scored the touchdown.
Dude.
What it came down to, honestly, is he was the best player on the field.
He was.
And he took over.
And Cignetti made that point very clear after the game. He said, he's a level above everybody that's going to be on an FCS field. And he is. I mean, he's that good.
Yeah.
So what I had was second quarter, 2nd down and 20 for North Dakota State at their own 10.
Yes.
Lance is, I don't know, I can't remember if it was a design draw or if he just got.
I think it was a pass, and he tried to scramble.
He just kind of got trouble, and then Rondell gets to him.
Yep.
But he gets a little face mask. When he gets to him, gets flagged. 15 yards, but more importantly than that, now it's 1st down and 10 again. Drive stays alive. So that was moment number 1 where you're like, oh, God, that's a killer. On the same drive, JMU gets to 3rd down, and for the first time in the entire game, they get off the field on 3rd down. I think it was like 4th and 8. So from the 20, so it's a 37-yard field goal attempt. Matt Ince doesn't waste any time sending the field goal team on, and it's like an obvious kicking situation. But so obvious that he thought it's actually the perfect time to run the fake.
Yep.
And it was James Hendricks was the holder, number 6, plays defense, plays linebacker. Jimmy Football, as the North Dakota State fan base refers to him, who I became a big fan of watching him go both ways, play some special teams. But Jimmy takes the snap, and JMU had loaded up the left side of the line for the field goal block, which is obviously, I'm sure, a tendency that North Dakota State had picked up on in film, seeing that depending on the hash, and it makes sense, JMU is going to load up on the side that you're kicking toward, and they did it again, and when they did it, Hendricks took the snap, and there was nobody.
I mean, it was beautifully designed and executed. I think they even had a couple guys pulling on it. It was really perfectly timed and executed. It
was one of those plays where he hadn't taken like 3 steps. He wasn't even to the corner yet, and you're already like, oh.
Yeah.
Like that's how that's going out the gate. So on that drive, you go from North Dakota State punting from their own 11 to North Dakota State getting 7 out of it. So you're about to flip field position, and instead, not only do you not, the drive continues, they run a ton of clock, and then they get 7 at the end of it. That hurt a lot. A lot of people are going to point to the DiNucci interception at the end of the game, at the goal line there, that literally sealed it for the Bison with 2 seconds left, but you only have 2 more shots.
Correct.
So you're gonna force it. If you think that there's any window at all, you're running out of opportunities. Yep. So I don't fault him for trying to squeeze that ball in there.
Not
it was really a great play by the safety to come over the top. So I don't really count that one, but the real backbreaker, in my opinion, was the play you already pointed out. It was 3rd and 23. In between a switch from the 3rd to the 4th quarter, there's a stoppage. Both teams go to their sideline. I literally forgot. I actually thought it was 4th down coming out of the changing quarter. No, it was 3rd down and 23. But you're thinking JMU's about to get off the field. They're down by 8. And Trey Lance, 44 yards to the house. Now it's 28-13 North Dakota State with like 14:50 to play. And you can't – credit to JMU, heart of a champion, like fighting back from down 28-13, making that a game where they had a chance there on the last play of the game. But there are no teams that down 28-13 to North Dakota State are going to rally from that deficit. That really felt like it was over in that moment. I was actually more surprised that we got to the end of the game with JMU still having a shot. So those 3 or 4 moments right there, I think, is what really swung the whole game.
Nope, you're absolutely right. And I think we both thought heading into the game this would be a very defensive game and that both teams would kind of struggle to move the ball. And if you got in the end zone, it felt huge. And it couldn't have been more different. Both teams moved the ball very well and found the end zone plenty of times and ended up being higher scoring than we thought.
Yeah, especially early.
Yeah.
I was like just as we thought. It was going to be like 7-7, like 4 seconds into the game.
2 drives in, yeah.
So, look, North Dakota State right now is a machine. All the credit in the world to what they've done there now through 3 different head coaches. Quarterback factory, for whatever reason.
Seriously.
They just keep churning them out. Trey Lance may end up being the best of them all before all is said and done.
How did this guy get past FBS?
Man, I don't know.
Because
I joke. I joke North Dakota State is not going anywhere unless PJ Fleck kidnaps him in the middle of the night. But how did Fleck not offer him to begin with? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. No, Western Michigan, Northern Illinois Boise State, only FBS offers.
Walter Payton Award winner with still 3 years left to play.
Yeah. First freshman, right?
Yes, first freshman to win the award. That was actually one of the coolest wrinkles from the weekend was because Trey obviously wasn't there, Rondell wasn't there, their family was there in their place because they had a game to play,
Sure.
an 11 a.m. kickoff. And again, the awards lasted until about 3 a.m. So Trey Lance's family was there to accept the awards for him and his dad both times for freshman player of the year. Yeah, the Jerry Rice Award.
Mm-hmm.
He accepted that one on his behalf, and that was a cool moment. But with the Walter Payton Award, he was emotional to the point of like not being able to speak for a minute, and it was a cool moment just to watch a father. I mean, you can only imagine. Obviously, I mean, you now having a son, like you could probably put yourself in his frame of mind, or maybe you can't yet, but I just can't imagine having a 19-year-old son where he is Trey Lance, where he's that dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the most impressive stat he put up this year was no interceptions.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, and I mean, if there was ever going to be a time for one, it was in the title game with that kind of pressure coming off the edge, and you thought maybe JMU would be able to disrupt him a little bit.
And those DBs, yeah.
Man, but killer game plan from North Dakota State because they really protected. Not that Lance needed protecting, but in those elements against that defensive line, I thought that it was a masterfully called game. Credit to North Dakota State, another title. Great season for JMU. Obviously, disappointing into it and a major bummer just given the departing seniors and Danucci and Carter and Daka, who we already mentioned, Rashad Robinson, Amos, guys like that. They're going to have to replace. There's a lot. Dimitri Holloway, a guy they're going to have to replace. They're going to have to reload, but it's James Madison, so I expect that they will.
Yeah.
Shall we transition to the other Division I title game?
Let's do it.
The FBS, the College Football Playoff Final. It was in my opinion, the best Final Four we've ever had. Definitely the best three that we've ever had. And it's set up for, in my opinion, to me, the most highly anticipated title game that didn't include one of my teams. Like, I was genuinely excited about it. I know you are too. If it had, and a couple of people have made the point that they feel a bit empty because they didn't get to watch LSU play Ohio State, but
I do not.
I mean, look, it was 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Clemson, Ohio State, both great all year, but Clemson was the king. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of fitting that LSU, their final, the boss at the end of the video game was the king.
This was either going to be the coronation of Clemson as this unbelievable 2-year run where they go 15-0 in back-to-back seasons. 15-0 has only been done 2 times now, but prior to that, it was only Clemson the year before. So it was either going to be them coronating them as the new dynasty, which I don't know. You can make an argument whether they still are, still aren't.
Yeah, I think they still are.
But going back to back, which is very hard to do. And shutting down this unstoppable historical LSU offense, or it was going to be the bow on LSU's magical season that nobody saw coming. You can say you thought they were going to be really good, but all everyone wanted to talk about before the season is how tough the schedule is.
Oh, yeah.
This offense really isn't going to be any different.
What, Burrow, 16 touchdowns and 14 picks last year, 13 picks, whatever it was. Like, nobody. If you say you saw this coming, you're lying.
Yes.
There's not an LSU fan out there that saw this coming. I could go pull Kevin Sander in here right now and inject him with truth serum, and he'd say 8-4, 9-3.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get to the Texas Bowl.
No one believed in Coach O.
Nobody believed in Coach O, except for you.
Except for I'd say I love Coach O. I'd say I probably believed in Burrow more than Coach O. But it was incredible. Clemson jumps out 17-7 early. They clearly have LSU guessing on offense. And also, they just had him. Dabo was happy with just pinning him deep early. Mm-hmm. I can understand why he punted the first time because it was like 4th and 16.
Yeah.
And it was a really long field goal. But the second time was a little weird because then they ended up kicking a field goal from that distance later in the game and making it. I think it was just like, let's keep pinning them deep. They're going to have to punt to us again, and we're eventually going to punch one in.
Yeah.
And they were struggling to pick up the blitzes. Burrow had no time. But then once LSU got that figured out, it was what, a 35-8 run to end the game?
35-8 run to finish, yeah. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Brent Venables for the game plan that Clemson came in with, and we knew Coach V was going to come with something special. Obviously, you give him that long to prepare, even if you don't. But if you do, it's going to be something exotic. It's going to be something he hadn't seen before. And even Joey Burrow before the game was like, yeah, we're watching film, but I can only watch so much film in this defense because I know what I'm seeing is not what they're going to show me.
That was what was interesting is Brady mentioned it too. It's like it's almost pointless for us to watch film because every week someone tries to do something different to it that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So let's just focus on us.
Yep. Yeah, so, coming in early, like you said, Clemson, they were coming from everywhere, and Burrow was having some trouble back there. Obviously, the 45-yard play on the first play of the game ended up being a half the distance penalty coming back. That was a killer because when he completes it, you're like, oh, here we go.
Yep.
And then, at that point, Clemson's defense kind of tightened up, and Dabo was definitely putting all his confidence in his defense and willing to play field position early in the game, and it paid off early in the game. LSU couldn't get anything going. 17-7 Clemson, and I'm at that point when it was 17-7, I'll be very, very honest, I was a little worried, like, oh damn, was Clemson this good the whole time and we didn't realize it, and this is actually going to end up being a blowout? Like I that thought went through my head, and then LSU marches down a score, and then everything after that was purple and gold.
I wasn't like freaking out worried because I was cheering for LSU, but I was like, okay, LSU needs to score here. After they got down 17, and then they went right down the field and did it. And then that offense was really clicking. It was just kind of like, okay, we need time to figure this out. And then those receivers, man, they wear on you. And then, okay, they took Jefferson. Jefferson wasn't a factor in the first quarter.
Yeah, they clearly watched the Oklahoma tape.
Yeah. But then they have the Biletnikoff winner on the other side of the field, and he got it going. And then Jefferson started getting it going, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire starts getting it going, and there's Thaddeus Moss in the red zone.
Yep.
And then late in the game, there's Terrence Marshall.
Yep.
It just doesn't stop.
Yep. I know. So go ahead.
Well, I think now, unless you want to talk any more about the game, because I think we really hit it all, it's where does this team stack up in greatest college football team of all time? And I've seen this go a couple ways. Some people don't want to say they're the best team of all time because, and the one they always bring up, a lot of people talk about 95 Nebraska. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about 2001 Miami.
Okay.
And they talk about how many pro players they had and all pros and first-round draft picks and da-da-da-da-da.
Sure.
What are we doing? That's another level.
Yeah.
They went on to all that success, and it is insane. They had all that talent on that team and everything. But when you look at the way, well, then I want to get to the other side of the argument too. But then other people are like, well, LSU had the greatest season of all time because only the second team to go 15-0. They beat 5 of the final top 8.
Yeah.
They beat the preseason top 4 by an average of 21. They beat like 7 teams that won bowl games. It's insane. But I don't want to hear like the pro argument because we're talking about college football and what they did and how they did it. They had the highest scoring AP team of all time. They scored the most points of any team ever. They had the greatest season by a player of all time. Joey Burrow had 6,500 total yards when you add in rushing and 60 touchdowns. Accounted for 65 when you add in rushing. It's most of all time. You had 2 receivers with 18 touchdowns, and then Terrence Marshall with another 13. He had a 1,000-yard running back. To me, it's pretty simple.
We're on the same page here. Greatest team of all time. It's funny. We opened up talking about NCAA football, the video game. That 01 Miami team was the team that you weren't allowed to play with.
Yeah.
I used to let my little brother play with them because he was so terrible and he would get mad. So I'm like, here, take them. You can't suck too bad if you play with Miami. But a couple of things. First of all, if you want to take a wait and see approach and see how some of these LSU guys do in the NFL, sure, go for it. Because they've got 3 NFL wideouts. They've got an NFL tight end. They've got the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. They've got an NFL running back. And we're only talking offense. Look at the defensive side of the ball. That Miami team, the defense was loaded, but was LSU's defense any less loaded in terms of NFL talent? I don't know that it was. I mean, you've got 3 NFL guys in that secondary at minimum. You've got, NFL guys on the defensive line. You've got NFL guys at linebacker as well. I don't know that when all is said and done, that Miami team is going to end up with more NFL players by a significant margin than what this LSU team had to offer. But for me, the conversation begins and ends with this. LSU had Joe Burrow behind center.
Mm-hmm.
That Miami team had Ken Dorsey.
Yep.
Get out of my face with a team that has Ken Dorsey as their quarterback being the greatest college team of all time. No, thank you. 6,040 yards, 60 touchdowns, and sneaky, gritty, fast, just somehow quick.
Deceptively fast.
He's
a gym rat coach's kid.
Gym rat coach's kid, and allowed him to be elusive in the backfield. No. I think that this LSU team, I'll say it today, and I think I'll feel the same way 10 years from now. I think it's the best team in the history of college football.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had the best season in the history of college football.
Without a doubt.
However you want to position the argument, this was the best thing that I've ever seen. It was the most fun team I've ever watched. I'm actually sad that it's over because every week they put on a show.
The most confident team I've ever seen.
Oh, just
like I know leading up to the Oklahoma game, obviously, as you as an OU fan, were like sending me these clips of like the wide receivers and the offensive line, the defensive line, kind of being disrespectful to Oklahoma. And then you saw what happened on the field. And it wasn't, I don't think that they were being disrespectful. They were just kind of speaking honestly.
Yeah, they were just being honest.
Yeah.
They were doing that thing that no coach ever wants a player to do. They were just being honest.
Yeah. And it was like, okay, this like never works out in college football. And then it did.
It did.
And then the other thing I do want to mention before we move on or get away from this topic, but remember the LSU defense was just kind of getting destroyed, and that's why they actually fell behind Ohio State in the college football rankings for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
So against Jake Fromm and Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence, how many passing touchdowns do you think they gave up?
3.
1.
Damn.
1. They picked off Fromm twice. Jalen Hurts they picked off once. And Trevor Lawrence did not have a pick. He did have a rushing touchdown. And they held those teams to 25, 28, and 10 points.
So Fromm threw no touchdowns.
Fromm threw 1.
Jalen didn't throw any. He just ran for 1.
Trevor didn't throw any.
Lawrence didn't throw any. He just ran for 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so you know, so we're clear, in my brain, I remember Jalen celebrating in the end zone and Lawrence celebrating in the end zone, so I added it up. I got 3. But yeah, that's crazy.
So
crazy.
And that's the kind of LSU team we're used to, with the really good defense and the Dave Aranda and the DBU. And when it mattered, they stepped up and did their job. So
absolutely,
hats off to the LSU defense.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've said it 1,000 times, but I'm a kid from Northwest Arkansas. I'm not supposed to like LSU, and I love this team.
So much freaking swag.
Dude. And, shout out to the LSU video team. I'm sure that they're getting plenty of shout-outs right now, but their videos were the sickest thing.
I saw a really cool video. One of the members of that, it was like 4 of them, put a video up, and it was like a year ago we met, and we wanted to be the best in the country and like engage and listed off all these things. And they were like mission accomplished, and it was them popping champagne like the players did. So that was really cool because what they did for that team and the brand, and I don't know how many people I saw on Twitter, like they have no connection to LSU, but because they saw these videos, they wanted them to win. They're like, this is really cool. And it tells the story. They also did, besides those hype videos, which they did every week, and they had narrated by someone very big every week. The last one was narrated by the freaking Rock. They did this really cool series on Joe Burrow. It's called That's Joe, and it was like 8 parts, and all of them were like 5 to 7 minutes long, like really well done. It's incredible what you can do when you have the resources and you go all in on it.
Yeah, they're crushing it. It's crazy. I guess my last point with LSU really is it's crazy to watch LSU go from there definitely wasn't a lot of people that liked LSU.
Mm-hmm.
There were LSU fans who are very enthusiastic about the team,
yeah.
But like nationwide, LSU is not one of those programs like in Ohio State, like in Texas, like in Oklahoma or Notre Dame that has a lot of fans nationwide. But from Coach O and Joe Burrow just being magnetic to the video team at LSU doing what they were able to do throughout the course of the year, but especially in the playoffs, to, and obviously you have to give some credit. We talked about this, and I'm not afraid to point it out. Pardon my take, being what they were with Joey and with Coach O, they have a massive nationwide audience.
They were essentially like a hype team for him.
Yeah, and then, obviously Bootleg, too. You're talking a lot about Coach O. Your impressions of Coach O.
My impressions dating back to last year.
Yeah.
My love fest with Burrow.
Your Coach O impressions and your Joey Burrow video from his high school days definitely helped to push it over the top and make LSU America's team this year. And it was really cool to watch.
Yeah, it was.
Do you have an early prediction for 2020? I teased it in the open. I don't know if you want to go there or not, but
So I'm gonna say, kind of like the FCS was this year, I'm gonna say a wire-to-wire 1-2, Clemson, Ohio State. They returned the 2 best players in the country, in Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and I just don't see anyone getting in their way. Although there is always a team that comes out of nowhere, not necessarily nowhere. Maybe that they start the year ranked, but they show that they are on that level.
Yeah.
I just find I don't see someone beating those guys in the regular season. Obviously Clemson.
Yeah.
They do go to Notre Dame this year because Notre Dame kind of plays an ACC schedule, so they go to Notre Dame. And Ohio State goes to Oregon. Kind of weird. Also, hold on. Oregon, what are you doing? Do you know who they opened the year with?
You told me.
Yeah, North Dakota State. What are you doing?
I don't know why anybody ever schedules.
No, what are you doing?
Oregon. It's the worst idea ever because if you beat them, nobody's going to be like, oh, great job by Oregon, beat North Dakota State.
Yeah.
But odds are it's going to be like 28-21 in the fourth, and you're going to have to just squeak that one out.
Yeah.
Much as West Virginia found out this year.
Yeah, stop it, Shane. Lions, stop scheduling JMU.
It's hard to argue with Ohio State and Clemson going wire to wire, especially if they get through the first couple weeks of the season, because I think from there it really smooths out for them.
Now those teams, I being from West Virginia, I know a lot of Ohio State fans because we're literally right on the Ohio River, border with Ohio. They really, really, really don't like Clemson.
Really?
They've never beaten them. They've played like 4 or 5 times. They've never beaten them. They got shut out in the one playoff, and they really feel like they were screwed pretty hard this year in the semi. And
look, man, Ohio State fans are freaking crazy. I don't know what you want me to do with that.
Well, no, I'm just saying like that adds to the context and the storyline.
I hope
those
what. Look, absolutely, and I like Justin Fields and I like Ryan Day, and generally speaking, like I kind of like Ohio State, but their fans' reaction to that Clemson game, and then also being on Twitter on Monday night talking about they're actually the best team in the country. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, just shut up. Like, you got a tough call in that game. I totally agree. Maybe 2 tough calls in that game. But you know what? You also had to kick 1,000 field goals from the red zone, where you were one of the best teams, if not the best red zone team in the country this year.
You also had Clemson backed up to their 4-yard line with like 4 minutes to go. And all you had to do was not give up a touchdown. And you give up a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then you threw an interception in the end zone.
You know what the difference was between what LSU did with Clemson and what Ohio State did with Clemson is LSU cashed in when they got inside the 10, and LSU's defense played its ass off.
They put it away.
Absolutely.
Put the game away.
So I see that wrinkle, but I don't know. I think I almost be cheering for Clemson just out of spite.
Yeah. I'm just saying that could be the big storyline next year is this rematch of.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Probably the best semifinal game we've ever seen in the college football play. The Oklahoma-Georgia game was pretty awesome.
It was. It was pretty good. Speaking of Oklahoma.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I don't want to be a homer, but they were a year ahead of schedule. I think, we'll talk about this in a minute maybe, I think that Rattler is at quarterback for them this year. So 5-star, dual threat, number 1 at his position. Sat behind Jalen for a year, which hope to God after watching QB1 was good for his maturity. So he's already 4th in the Vegas odds to win the Heisman somehow.
It's ridiculous.
The group of young receivers that Oklahoma's got is very reminiscent of what LSU had this year. Whether you like Theo Weiss from Jaden Hazelwood better, I don't care. UCLA transfer Theo Howard is apparently coming to Oklahoma.
Oh, great.
Kind of fits in that number 3 wide receiver spot. And then Austin Stogner at tight end he's going to be a stud. He has a chance to be the next Mark Andrews. And defensively, they don't lose much. And I don't even really care if they do because that defense was good in spite of its personnel this year, and it's only going to get better next year. And this year it was good enough to get to the Final Four. And much as you pointed out with Clemson in the ACC, Oklahoma in the Big 12, there's not a lot of resistance to them getting to the semifinal undefeated. So I think Oklahoma is a team to watch, at risk of being called a homer, probably guilty as charged. I also think Georgia is really interesting as a contender for 20.
Yeah.
Fromm's gone, but I don't know that it matters because a couple of days ago they announced that Jamie Newman from Wake is coming in.
I really like him.
He's at worst he'll be a wash, I think.
Correct.
And at best he's an upgrade over Fromm, at least what Fromm was in 2020. And around him they're loaded at running back. They got George Pickens at wide receiver, and it's the best defense in the country coming back probably. So I think Georgia is a team that
totally agree.
That could easily rise up there and be a legit contender. Real quick, who do you think is going to be the overhyped team going into next year? This year, obviously, it was Ellinger and Texas all over every magazine cover. What do you think is going to be next year?
What's to say it's going to be any different after they just beat?
They're back.
They just beat Utah, who, I mean, was there a more fraudulent team in the country, clearly, after the Pac-12 championship game and then that game? They were clearly just like an 8-5 football team, really, that just played a really bad schedule.
They've also mastered the art of getting into a bowl game against a team that just had its heart ripped out because it thought it was going to the playoff, and now it's not.
Yeah. They did against
2 years
Georgia
in a row.
last year, yeah. Man, that's a good question. I mean, I really think Texas will be too high because you have Ellinger back, and but I mean, you're replacing offense and defensive coordinators. Like, what is going to make me believe that they're going to be better on either side of the ball? I don't know. Like, I just see them as being like an 8-4, maybe 9-3 team again.
Maybe
like,
9-3, and they'll definitely be ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I agree. I think Texas will be Texas again. I think Auburn has a chance to also be the Texas next year.
Yeah, everyone's just going to assume Bo Nix is going to get better.
People love Bo Nix.
I know.
And I'm not exactly sure why they love him so much, but it's not even just a Bo Nix problem. Like, Auburn at wide receiver is just not that good. Like, Anthony Schwartz is incredibly fast human being. But what else is there around Schwartz at wide receiver? I don't even know who Nix is going to throw the ball to. So I think Auburn and Texas both will probably be in the top 10 coming into next year. Probably got Nix and Ellinger all over all of our magazines again.
Gosh.
And I think that they'll both be relatively disappointing. I think Auburn will go 9-3 and Gus will be on the hot seat again. And I think Texas will go 9-3 or 8-4 and be in the Texas Bowl or the Alamo Bowl, and they'll beat whoever just got their heart broken. Probably beat Oregon. Oregon will be losing the Pac-12 championship and play Texas in the Alamo Bowl.
Oh man.
This is an impossible question, but is there a quarterback next year that you can see having a jump the way that Burrow did?
Well, I'm glad you asked because do you know what Joe Burrow QBR was last year? Or what he ranked in the country number-wise?
Oh, no shot. No, I don't know.
70th.
Okay,
after last season. So, what I did is I went and looked at the 70th rated quarterback. And I forget who that is now off the top of my head, but he's a senior, okay?
Okay.
So, the 69th rated quarterback was Dorian Thompson Robinson from UCLA.
Interesting.
Who I actually really like. So I'm going to go with him.
Okay.
And last year, 2,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, 12 picks, to put that in perspective. True sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
But what I liked about UCLA is they went 3-3 down the stretch. And while that's not great, that is a big improvement from what they've been doing. They started off 1-5 with losses to San Diego State and Cincinnati. I mean, it's actually a pretty good team, but they starting to figure things out. And even in those last 3 that they lost to USC and Cal and I believe Utah, who are 3 good teams, they were more competitive and they were in these games. So they're starting to figure things out a little bit there with Chip Kelly. And then you look at the non-conference slate this year, it's much more navigable than the Oklahoma game last year. And so they New Mexico State, Hawaii, San Diego State. And then you get into Pac-12 play. And obviously the Pac-12, Stanford just had like 20 players enter the portal. And Washington State's going to have a new coach. What the heck will USC be? You know?
We never know.
So I think it's possibly there for the taking. And I think he can maybe take the next step.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to answer my own question. I'm going to answer my own question with a question.
Okay.
And it's going to point us into your favorite topic, the transfer portal.
Love it.
And I see that clock counting down on us, but I was also told that we have a few extra minutes to play with today, so I'm going to assume that's still the case. And if it's not, people can barge in here and kick us out. Here's the question. Where does De'Aaron King end up? Because if King finds a situation like the one that found Burrow, and by that I mean a loaded wide receiver room and Joe Brady, I think King is a very real candidate to take the college football world by storm next year. And I think one such possibility, and everyone is going to laugh, and you are going to laugh as well.
Say it.
But hear me out. I think one such possibility for De'Aaron King that makes a ton of sense in the vein of the conversation that we're having right now is Arkansas. Arkansas went 2-1,000 and they have a new coach and they suck, and why would he ever go there? Got it. Check. King went from 3-star prospect that no one knew anything about to superstar in 2018 with Kendall Briles running the offense at Houston. Mm-hmm. Same Kendall Briles, who's now running the offense at Arkansas.
Correct.
King went for 3,000 yards, 36 touchdowns. He just threw 6 interceptions. He ran for nearly 700 yards and 14 touchdowns at Houston with Briles running the offense. So Briles being the Brady to King's Burrow, the next question is, okay, then who's catching the passes? Because the other thing with Burrow and LSU was that wide receiver room at the end of the day. We're like, holy shit, that was a great room. Cool. Well, Arkansas is sneaky loaded at wide receiver. And I mean that sincerely. Like, quarterback was an issue.
Educate me.
I will. The LSU wide receiver room, it wasn't like we were sitting here a year ago and everybody was like, oh, well, Justin Jefferson is great, and Jamar Chase is going to win the Biletnikoff, and Terrace Marshall, oh, yeah, he's that guy that was awesome and then broke his leg. I wonder if he'll ever be good again. Like,
Justin Jefferson was a 2-star recruit.
Yeah. There was no fanfare around that wide. It was just like all of a sudden people were like, oh, my God, they're actually awesome.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, Traylon Burks and Trey Knox, couple of elite recruits, not 5-star, that would be embellishing. 4-star wide receivers. They'll play the role of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Okay? Mike Woods can play the role of Terrace Marshall, that complimentary 3.
Okay.
All right? Hayden Henry, brother of Hunter, can fill the role of Thad Moss, son of Randy. All right? And then, not to mention Rakeem Boyd keeping teams honest in much the same way as Clyde Edwards-Helaire did at LSU. I think that group of players can absolutely replicate in a Kendall Briles offense what you saw from LSU this year in a Joe Brady offense. And for that reason, and Kendall Briles being a massive part of that reason, I think that De'Aaron King at Arkansas, and look, I'm not suggesting that Joe Burrow and De'Aaron King are the same player talent-wise.
Right.
Burrow's a generational talent. I can't say that enough. He might be the best college quarterback at this point, I think he is the best college quarterback we've ever seen with respect to Tebow and whoever else. Yeah, Vince Young. I don't care. Insert guy here. Cam. Yep. I think Burrow's the best college quarterback we've ever seen. I'm not saying that De'Aaron King can be that. What I'm saying is that King could match that holy crap, he came out of nowhere feel that we had with Burrow this year if he's in the right season with the right cast. And while I know I'll get killed for it, with respect to LSU, Oregon, and Miami, I genuinely think that Arkansas represents that. I also think that Oklahoma is a better spot for him than Arkansas. I'll just be honest about it. That's assuming he beat out Rattler, which I don't know if that's necessarily a lock. I have no idea. Like, I think Rattler's going to be awesome. I'm not sure. I would just defer to Lincoln Riley on that if he thought he had a better option. But then it goes back to the thing that we've talked about. I think Riley's taking a huge risk in bringing in De'Aaron King. I think Rattler probably leaves, and I think that it significantly damages Riley's credibility in the living room of a high school quarterback moving forward. I know for a fact that every rival school recruiting against him is going to use that against him for every quarterback moving forward.
They probably already are, too.
And he still may do it.
Yeah.
He still may do it. If either A, he thinks that Rattler will stick around, if he can get in Rattler's ear and be like, look, dude, you're just a freshman. One more, redshirted this year, redshirt freshman next year, you back up, you're one play away, and then you're redshirt sophomore, you take over. You just need one more year. If he can convince Rattler of that and bring in King, then great. K can eat it too. Or B, if he just doesn't give a damn and he thinks that King is the thing that gets Oklahoma past that semifinal barricade they keep running into every year, then I don't know that he cares at all at that point what that means for the future of his ability to recruit quarterbacks, because shit, he's already shown that he could just go get a transfer every year. So though I
kind of hope he keeps doing that.
He might. I don't know. But so I know I just listed 2 teams for which I have an obvious bias, but I think that sincerely, I think that those are legitimately the best 2 landing spots for D'Eriq King.
You're not wrong.
I know. I rarely am.
And you actually brought this to my attention, but the coaches broadcast of the national championship game featured Gary Patterson and Mike Gundy.
Yeah.
And Patterson was like, "Oh yeah, Mike, remind me to tell you at the break who's in the portal. Guess where he's going?" And Gundy was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll tell you at the break."
Yeah.
And I think everyone assumed he was talking about King because he actually said it before the news broke, before King tweeted about it. So if he knows that before the news is breaking, it feels like he probably knows where he's going too.
Yeah, I don't know who else he would have been talking about in that situation.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And then also, the whole thing with King was weird, right? You know, when it happened.
Yeah, it was super weird.
Holgorsen tried to take, it was my idea. Remember that? He was like, it was my idea.
Yeah.
I came to him about it. He was all about it. He's not going anywhere. And then King was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. But none of us really believed him. And then he tweets it out in the middle of the national championship game. Everyone begins losing their mind.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think your reaction, or what do you think Dana Holgorsen's reaction would be?
If you think he'd be sad.
Right. And would you tweet if you were him?
Nah, I'd be real quiet.
Yeah. He tweeted LFG.
It's an acronym.
It is. For Let's Effing Go.
Let's effing go.
What?
Maybe he was just really excited to be able to play his kid at quarterback next year.
He was getting ratioed pretty hard by the Houston fans. They're none too pleased.
I would imagine. I think that the way the D'Eriq King thing played out, it's a couple of things. First of all, no coach is ever going to try to tank for Tua ever again, the way that Holgorsen basically allegedly tried to do with Houston this year.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're 1-3, everybody redshirt, we'll be better next year. That backfired. Nobody will ever try that again. So there's that. But I do wonder if the D'Eriq King thing won't become a sort of blueprint for group of 5 quarterbacks that are like, hey, maybe I'll just take a red shirt my senior year and wait for Oklahoma or LSU or somebody to come get me.
Ball out your first couple years and then use that to springboard into a Power 5 league and get on some and help your draft stock and go win a conference title and go to the playoff. Yeah.
I thought D'Eriq King to LSU, especially with the timing of the tweet, made a lot of sense. But with Joe Brady going to Carolina now, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Because if you're him, you're taking a big chance now. We promised transfer portal talk. We are. Oh, I wonder if that clock is real. You think we have 10 minutes and 45 seconds left?
Let's pretend like we do.
Okay. Well, what else would you like to talk about within the transfer portal?
I don't know. Well, you could go a lot of directions with it. Has there been anyone at Oklahoma that has entered the portal that surprised you, or anyone else that has entered the portal that you think is coming to Oklahoma or Arkansas?
No. I mean, the LSU kid, the UCLA kid, the wide receiver. I think that he's headed for Oklahoma, which helps him at wideout. At Arkansas, they had Felipe Franks on campus.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago. I couldn't hate that more if I tried. Felipe Franks is not good.
Well, in the 24/7 portal tracker there, someone has a crystal ball in for Franks to Kansas.
I saw that this morning. Go for it. Good luck.
Yeah.
I think Felipe Franks is a perfect fit for Kansas.
As a West Virginia fan that will play Kansas this year, please go to Kansas.
Looking forward to it. What's the deal with Justin Rogers from TCU?
I don't know.
Because, man, I mean, that's another kid where him and Terrace Marshall, same team, sky's the limit. Number 2 dual threat quarterback, number 1 wide receiver. They both have really awful injuries their senior year. Terrace looks like he's kind of getting back to being himself again, but Justin Rogers, man, I think he has that the deal that Jalen had, where the nerve in his knee is not regenerating at the speed they might like, and he had like the what do you call it when your foot
Drop foot.
Drop foot. Thank you. Yeah. So
no,
he was playing at TCU with drop foot.
Yeah, they put him in a bowl game with drop foot.
Which is.
Yeah. Gary? What are you doing?
Gary can be as mad as he wants to be about a quarterback transferring to Oklahoma. When you put your 4-star redshirt freshman out there with drop foot in a bowl game, no other quarterback is going to be like, I want to go play for that guy.
Correct. I don't get it, man. Wait, University.
What about Jack Allison?
Jack Allison, man, I'm not going to be mean to the kid. He just didn't. He was a highly ranked guy that the evaluators just got wrong. I mean, it just didn't work out at Miami. For a while, I was actually optimistic about it, but after seeing him replace Will Grier a couple times when he was banged up, just didn't work out, and he couldn't beat out Austin Kendall this year. He should probably go at like Group of 5 or FCS. That's just kind of like the level he's at.
Right.
And I wish well for him. He's a good kid and was great for the program, but it just didn't work out. It is interesting when you have a new regime come in, and I think West Virginia fans kind of flipped out about this a little bit this year, because we did have some starters essentially quit halfway through the year, and they've since moved on. Josh Sills, all Big 12 lineman preseason and last year, he did have a shoulder injury and ended up having shoulder surgery, but he played in the first 2 games, and what's to say he couldn't finish the season. He decided to stop playing and have the surgery, and is transferring to Oklahoma State. Martell Pettaway, who played for 3 years and has over close to 2,000 yards rushing in his career, decided to stop halfway through the season, and he hasn't announced his destination. Giovanni Stewart, starting safety, transferring to Houston to go be with Holgerson. So it is interesting that I don't read too much into it, but there are West Virginia fans like, oh, you got to be able to keep players from the old staff too, and it's like, you can want the players, but if they don't want to be there,
those players agreed to come and play for a coaching staff that no longer is there. It's not. They didn't. Those players didn't pick laundry. They didn't pick a dorm room. They picked that coaching staff. So if you're able to hold guys over, like for example, the fact that Sam Pittman hasn't had more defections. I saw this morning that TQ Jackson entered the portal. See you later, dude. Like they're fine at wide receiver. I didn't even mention Shamar Nash earlier. So they're good there. The fact that Pittman is able to come in and keep Burks and keep Nash, for example, or keep, for that matter, Rakeem Boyd coming back, that doesn't happen. That's out of the ordinary. So when it does, be thankful, be grateful that your coach was able to hold it together, but that should never be the expectation.
Absolutely. And I remember Brown, when he got introduced, his first message to the team was you guys didn't sign up to have a coaching change. I'm aware of that, and obviously it's not great for you guys, but we're gonna make your experience the best we can. And 95% of the team bought in, and it's all in, and let's go.
Yeah.
And why do you want the 5% that doesn't want to be there? They're just going to drag everybody down.
Yeah, you don't. As a coach, you have to cut off, the poison, so to speak. And I think, and not to say that those guys are bad guys, but if you don't believe in a coach, you didn't sign up to play for a coach.
Right.
You can't force that fit. Speaking of the portal. And that clock is actually accurate, so we do have 5 minutes and 13 seconds. Got confirmation on that. Jack Sears from USC is in the portal.
Okay.
I don't care about.
He's always been in the portal.
I don't care about Jack Sears at all. But it reminded me of JT Daniels. So everybody is like, Keaton Slovis is going to be the man at USC. He's like the Vegas odds to win the Heisman. He's like 5th. Nobody's talking about JT Daniels. JT Daniels is that dude. JT Daniels is the 5-star kid who graduated early and went to USC. Sure. Why is JT Daniels being written off? Why is nobody talking about JT?
Well, I honestly, I'm kind of in that Keaton Slovis camp. That's is his team now. I don't know. Daniels obviously played the first couple games, but he just didn't seem to have that pop or that playmaking ability that Slovis came in and had. It just seemed like Clovis Slovis, like, had a handle on that offense and, like, really directed it well that I don't feel like Daniels did. And also, Daniels can't stop getting hurt. He got hurt a few times last year, too.
Okay. I don't know.
I'm kind of keen Slovis here.
I'm team Daniels.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. He was absolutely – he reclassified, you know, even though he was, like, 19. But he still reclassified so he could go leave early, and he played majority of his freshman year. And, I mean, he wasn't doing bad this year when he got hurt. But I'm kind of team Slovis here.
All right. Well, I'm surprised that Daniels didn't enter the portal. I'm surprised with everybody talking about Slovis, he stuck around. His dad said that he's definitely staying. His dad also said that he has an SC tattoo on his leg. So maybe that's why he's not going to transfer.
Doesn't want to get another tattoo.
Yeah, he's stuck with it now.
Yeah. What other big quarterback? Jet Duffy's going to Tulane.
Yeah, I don't care.
What about your boy Nick Starkel? You don't care that he's going to San Jose State?
That's exactly where he belongs. That's exactly the level of competition.
It comes full circle, right?
I don't. I have nothing good to say about Nick Starkel or San Jose State.
Didn't he start that game?
Kyle, I think we're done here.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying it's coming full circle.
I think we're done here.
Who else? KJ Costello. Where the hell's he going?
I don't know, but again, do we care? Is KJ good?
No.
See, I think it's if Rogers' foot works, I think it's Justin Rogers. I think it's Joey Gatewood.
He's going to Kentucky.
I know.
I was just saying.
And I think it's De'Aaron King, and I think that's about the only transfer quarterbacks that are going to make a difference. I mean, Jake Bentley's going to Utah. Why are you going to Utah?
Yeah.
Tyler Huntley's going to play at Utah. You're not going to play there any more than you played at South Carolina.
Is Huntley done, though?
I thought he had a year left.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, then great decision to go to Utah because you're going to play, definitely, but you're still going to suck. What else? I'm annoyed now.
Yeah, Huntley was a senior. Just wanted to confirm that. I think we're good. Jamie Newman to Georgia. I think that was the biggest one, honestly.
Dalton Hyatt's leaving Arkansas. Huge loss.
Don't know who that is.
No, you shouldn't.
What about Blaze McKibben? That's a cool name. Kalen Newton. What about Kalen Newton?
I don't know.
He's just interesting. He's
compete at the FBS level?
I don't know. It's just fun and interesting to see if he can.
Maybe he'll go to Maryland. Maybe he'll go to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, go to Virginia Tech, Kalen. Go be somebody.
All right, we have 1:30 to go. Tell the people the key to the bootleg, and let's get the hell out of here.
It's doing it naked.
There you go.